Hey G fans, GojiFan93 here. Welcome back to day 22 of the Godzilla thon 2014. Today we will be taking a look at Godzilla vs. Destoroyah. Alright, now first off, yes, the short hair is back. I got a haircut, but let's not make that the topic of the video. The topic of the video is Godzilla vs. Destoroyah. Now, so we are finally at the end of the Heisei series. Sadly, because I hate every time I get to this movie because this movie is a mixture of awesomeness but sadness because what happens in the movie, and it's just like, this is a big movie, and you can obviously tell that, you know, Toho wanted to end the series with a bang because this was supposed to be, like Destroy All Monsters was, this was supposed to be the final movie in the Godzilla series for Toho. They said, after this movie, we're done, that's it. Obviously that didn't happen, but at the time, 1995, that is what they stated, and that's what they wanted to do. So basically, Godzilla is becoming a nuclear reactor, and all the radiation of him, the nuke, he's gonna explode. Basically, he's just getting too powerful. He's absorbed too much, you know, radiation, nuclear power, whatever, thing like that. So what they tell in the movie is that he's basically becoming a nuclear reactor that's about to explode. And that's why Godzilla's design, as you can see here, represented by my Bandai creation figure, he has, you know, red all around him, his spikes are red, and so you obviously can tell that Godzilla's, like, not feeling too well. Then it doesn't help that the humans decide to tamper with the oxygen destroyer stuff again, and they end up creating Destoroyah, which a lot of fans argue is the toughest enemy, but he is not, and I will get into that later in this review. So, yeah, but there's a lot going on in this movie. Actually, there's like 3 different storylines going on. First, we got the, you know, to deal with, you know, oh, what are we gonna do about Godzilla? Because if Godzilla explodes, they have 2 things that are gonna happen. Either Godzilla's just gonna become a gigantic hydrogen nuclear bomb and just explode the whole freaking world, basically, or he's gonna melt down and suck the whole world in and just create chaos and everything. Just basically, it's Armageddon no matter what happens. So they gotta figure out what to do with Godzilla. And then Godzilla Jr., which is little Godzilla from Space Godzilla, he has grown up. He's a little bit, he's, you know, mutated because of what happened on this, the Birth Island, I believe is what it was called. I got mixed up if it was Bass Island or not, but I guess they call it Birth Island in this one. Sorry about my stuffy nose again. But yeah, so Godzilla Jr.'s back, and he's definitely, this time, the son of Godzilla looks like the son of Godzilla. They finally nailed the design to where, yes, that looks like the son of Godzilla. Perfect. So obviously Godzilla and Godzilla Jr. are separated, so that's another kind of storyline. They're trying to find where Godzilla Jr. is, and they're trying to get them to come back together. And then the last storyline that goes on is the scientist guy who's messing with oxygen, not oxygen destroyer, but he's messing with oxygen and the science with it, and he knows that by tampering with this stuff, they're going to delve in back with the technology of the oxygen destroyer. And what I love about this is that it's just full circle. They bring it back all the way to the first film. They talk about Dr. Serizawa, and the coolest part is that they bring back the actress who played as Emiko in the very first Godzilla movie back here. And she's still, well, at least in 1995, she was still there. She's aged, but she's still there. And she tells her, like, you know, young, I think it's, I forget, it's not son, it's whatever relative, and she tells him that, you know, he's like a Godzilla hobbyist. It's like Godzilla's his hobby, and the military asks him to help with Godzilla, whatever. But she tells him to not make the oxygen destroyer because obviously she was there and she remembered what happened with Dr. Serizawa and all that crap. And so it's really awesome how she made like a cameo. I love the fact that they brought her back. I mean, it's just full circle, full freaking circle. It's awesome. So yeah, and basically there's one scene where Destoroyah starts out as like these little destroyer crab-like things, and they're in like this factory or whatever. So they get like this special operation unit, whatever, to go in there and take them all out. But this part of the movie is like, it's like completely separated from Godzilla. Like you wouldn't even be able to tell that this was a Godzilla movie at this part. But I kind of see this part as a missed opportunity to be a little bit more violent. Maybe I'm just sadistic or something, but I think that this scene could have been a little bit more violent, like with maybe some blood, or and I always thought what was weird is that when the crabs shot their beam at the humans, and it makes like a weird warp hole looking thing in their chest, and they fly, and they're like, oh, it's all in slow-mo and stuff. I kind of wish that they actually would have turned into skeletons. I think that would have been a little bit more cool. Like if they like, oh, and all of a sudden they just went, and like their whole body just, they turn into skeletons. I think that would have been really cool. Because it kind of fits with the Oxygen Destroyer theme, you know, turn the fish into skeletons and then I guess eventually dissolve them, but you know, whatever. But I just feel like that could have been a little bit more violent. I think they just played it the safe route during that, but yeah, anyway, so then they start to grow, they get the military to come out, and they just start shooting them, and you know, Destroyer then turns into his, I guess his, like, what, third, or, he has many forms in this movie, so it's like, it's really hard to keep track of it, but he turns into like a bigger form of the crab one, where he has like these long arms that kind of, you know, he's like, rah. That was very descriptive, wasn't it? Anyway, so the military has a problem fighting him, and also Godzilla is still attacking the city, so, you know, they're talking about, we can't use military weapons against him because it's basically lighting a fuse, and if we shoot at him with conventional weapons, he's just going to explode anyways. So they have to try and figure out, okay, well, let's use cooling weapons, let's use, like, you know, missiles that will cool him down and stuff. And this is what a really cool scene is, because they bring back the Super X, and now it's the Super X3, definitely the best out of all the Super X's, and they basically pack it all with these, you know, cooling weapons. So they go in, they you know, shoot at Godzilla, and they start to freeze him up. And what's really cool is that when they use the cadmium shells and they shoot it at Godzilla's mouth, one of the best effects I've ever seen in a Godzilla film is like, you see Godzilla's face and it starts to freeze up, and it just goes, and he just freezes. I like that special effect right there was done so well. It was like one of the best special effects I've ever seen in a Godzilla film. So that was really cool, but obviously that doesn't stop Godzilla. He eventually falls in the water and just comes back out. But what they're saying is that when Godzilla reaches about, I think, I don't remember, was it 1200 degrees, I think it was? I might be wrong on that. I'm really bad at recapping stuff after I've just watched it. It's like when I read a book. Once I read a book, I instantly forget what I just watched, but whatever. Anyway, so once he reached this certain amount of, you know, of a degree on his heat, that's the danger zone where Godzilla would eventually melt. So what they have to do is, right at that time, they have to shoot all of their ice missiles or cooling weapons and all the chemical whatever on Godzilla, so that they can keep the damage minimal. So, you know, then they get, in order for Godzilla to fight Destoroyah, they say, well, we have to then use Godzilla Jr. as a decoy, so that Godzilla would come to Godzilla Jr. where Destoroyah is. Obviously, Mickey, she, you know, obviously doesn't like that idea, because she has, you know, feelings for these monsters, and she doesn't like it, but obviously she gets overruled. So they get there, and Godzilla Jr. actually fights Destoroyah first. He fights his first crab form, and then he fights his flying form. Now, you know, I'll delve into my whole thing about Destoroyah not being a tough enemy, but for Godzilla Jr., yeah, Destoroyah is a tough enemy, because, I mean, you know, Godzilla Jr. is not as strong as his father is, so, but, you know, Godzilla Jr. actually does end up, you know, defeating Destoroyah, at least his, you know, minimum forms, I guess. But then Godzilla comes along, they all, you know, Godzilla and Godzilla Jr. try to talk, and they try to communicate, but then Destoroyah decides to grow into his final form, which, you know, looks like this. It's like a big demon-looking thing. And, I mean, he's massive. I mean, Destoroyah is probably, you know, maybe the second biggest monster Toho's made, next to, like, Biollante and King Ghidorah. But, yeah, he's just massive. So I mean, right off the bat, spoiler alert, he kills Godzilla Jr. I mean, he just like flies up, he knocks Godzilla down, he flies over Godzilla Jr., grabs him by the neck, and just drops him, and then starts, firing lasers at him, or not lasers, but his beam. And it's just like, wow, he took him out pretty quickly. Godzilla then, goes on. There's a fight between him and Destoroyah, and then he takes out Destoroyah once, and then he goes to his son, seeing him dead. This is probably one of the most saddest scenes in a Godzilla thing, and this is where we get to see Godzilla have a heart, kind of in the same way that, I mean, the only other time we've seen Godzilla with, like, some sadness or some emotion, like as a father, is in Son of Godzilla. That's like the last time we saw Godzilla as, more of like acting like a father. So in this one, we see Godzilla, he bends over, he looks at his son, and he's just like looking at him. He breathes new life into him. If you notice that Godzilla, when he goes down, he opens his mouth and you see like some red breath come in, and it goes into Godzilla Jr. So that's how he kind of revives him at the end of the movie. Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert for a very old movie, I guess. But then Destoroyah decides to ruin the party by hitting Godzilla in the back, doing some more damage to him. But then the military ends up showing up, and they end up taking care of Destoroyah. He ends up flying up, the military takes him out, falls down, explodes. And then after that, we have the most saddest scene ever in Godzilla history. I mean, this is the saddest moment ever. This scene, like so basically Godzilla melts. That's basically what happens. But the way they do it, they like, it starts out where you hear, the missiles being shot at Godzilla to cool him down before he does his big meltdown. But what they do is they mute everything, and they just have music playing, and it's just quiet. Like, there's no sound effects. It's just the music playing, and it's just the mood it sets is just so sad. And the music they play is the most, like, oh my god, heart-ripping music ever. And I remember when I was little, the first time watching this, I cried as a kid because, you have to understand, think back to when you were like, 10 years old, and you see your favorite superhero or your favorite character die. I mean, it's a big deal when you're 10 years old, I mean, there's, so when I was 10 years old watching, I was just like, oh my god, and he's dying, and like, when Godzilla's melting, I mean, it's brutal, it's gory. I mean, Godzilla's skin is like melting, his flesh is just falling off him. I mean, it looks like from one of the Indiana Jones movies where the guy's like skull, or like where his face melts or whatever. But yeah, it's just like really sad. But then obviously at the end, the dust clears of the, whatever, and Godzilla Jr. is right there as a big Godzilla again. And the movie just pretty much cuts off there, and then they have a big, the end credits is really cool, the music's really cool, and then they have a big compilation of the first movie and then the Heisei series. Like, they take clips from all the movies and they put it into one big compilation as a big, like, bye-bye to the Godzilla series. So yeah, but all in all, the movie is amazing. It's one of the best in the Heisei series. Definitely big. I mean, it's just big, epic movie. And a really good way to close off the series, because the Showa didn't really have a good closure. It just kind of, with Terra Mecha Godzilla, it was just like another battle, and Godzilla just goes out into the ocean, and you just, that's it. But this one, it closes it. Godzilla dies, his son takes over his place, and that's it. It's a good ending. But I'm going to talk now about a controversial top 10 or top 5 list that I did, where I didn't include Destoroyah because I don't believe that he was a tough monster. Now, after rewatching this, I'll admit Destoroyah, he was a little tough for Godzilla, I will admit, but I still believe that he is not the toughest monster. There are people out there that say that Destoroyah is the toughest for a couple of reasons that I think are complete bullshit. One, his name is Destoroyah, so obviously he has to destroy everything. So just because his name is big and grand, that means he's tough. No. Second, he's really big. Look at the design. He's huge. Oh my god. Oh, he's big. Oh, he's got spikes everywhere. Blah, blah, blah. Just because you're bigger doesn't mean it's better. I mean, look at Gigan or Hedorah. Those guys were very simple and subtle monsters, yet they were able to kick Godzilla's ass. Third, he killed Godzilla's son. Any monster in the Heisei series could kill Godzilla's son. Godzilla's son is not as strong as Godzilla is. God, that's only Godzilla Jr. He's still got to grow. He's still got to get more strong. Yeah, no, that's a bullshit reason why Destoroyah is tough. And, you know, my thing is that, you know, if Destoroyah gets killed by the military, that's really bad, because that's the only monster I think that I can think of in my head right now that was killed by the military. That's just bad, okay? Especially for a big guy like this, getting taken down by the military, that's, yeah, and some people argue that it wasn't the military that took him down, that it was Godzilla. No, it wasn't, because I just saw the movie. I clearly saw Godzilla fired his breath at Destoroyah, then he went up into the air because he wanted to retreat, and the military did the final blow. Then Destoroyah fell down and exploded. Godzilla had nothing to do with the final blow. Another reason why people say that he's a tough monster was because Godzilla died in it. That doesn't matter. Destoroyah had nothing to do with Godzilla's death in this movie. It was the meltdown that killed him. It was the nuclear fission, or whatever they say, that was killing him. Destoroyah had nothing to do with his death. Godzilla would have died regardless if Destoroyah was in this movie or not. So, anyways, I don't know if that's for like a kaiju discussion or whatever, because I don't want to make a rant out of this review. But anyways, so, yes, Godzilla vs. Destoroyah, that is the end of the Heisei series. So I'm very sad that we're done with this series. It feels like I just started it yesterday, but that's it. So stay tuned for tomorrow for you know what, and I'll see you guys till then. Stay big, G fans.